Hola and welcome to the Puntillas, a space made to share knowledge both for professional and aspiring dancers. Today I would like to bring up a very important subject, which is our sewing kit. We would learn today what our essentials should be, what are our musts for our sewing kit. Secondly, we will learn about display so that we can find our items at all times, regardless of what the situation, so that we always get what we need from our sewing kit. Thirdly, we're going to talk about tips and tricks on, for example, where to buy your thread, so that it's still good quality but you're buying it to a fair price, and other tricks. Let's talk about what items should we have in our sewing kit. So let's start with the ribbon. I like to use an elastic ribbon, other people like to use the normal one. Elastic. I like this see-through one, but there's so many kinds. That's just up to you. This thread, it's the one that I use for the ribbons and the elastics. Yes, more thread. This thread, I use it for the very end tippy-toe of the base of my punch shoe. Scissors, a cutter, some tweezers, a pokey, one of these to help you push the thread so that you don't hurt your fingers. This is optional, but I think it's very, very handy. A lighter, and most importantly, your needles. I have bigger ones, thinner ones that I use for the tippy toe of my punch shoe, and the other ones to sew my ribbons and my elastics. Then comes the time to organize your items and display them. Personally, I own two boxes, one that I have at work, or that you could have in your school, and the other one I have it at home. So I don't have to keep running around and forgetting one thing in one place and then needing it when I'm in the other place. There's nothing more annoying than needing to show your shoes, maybe you have a show tomorrow and you don't have your thread or you don't have your needle, and that's just so annoying. I learned it the hard way, and hopefully with this you can, incorporate it to your routine and it will help you a little bit. So this is my sewing kit that I like to keep at work. This, in case you're a student, it's the one that you will keep in your locker at school. It has two levels. I bought it in a hardware store, and this very first level is what I like to call my ready to go one, because here's where I keep all of my pre-cutted ribbons and elastics, ready to go, needle with a thread and stuff like that, so I can just get on and sew my shoes quickly. So let's start in this side. In this side, I first keep here ribbons that are pre-cutted, that are completely new. I like to just, fold them up in order to save space and tuck them in. On this side, I like to keep safety pins, which, sometimes if you're gonna measure your ribbons, or they're always handy, or you like to, make a skirt a little tighter or whatever, I like to keep them here, and this is just a thingy that, keeps all of them together so they're not running around. And I also keep my little thingy to don't hurt, to not hurt my finger whenever I'm pushing the needle when I'm sewing. So that goes also there. Here, this empty space that you see, well, I just cleaned it for the video. Usually it's full of tiny little threads, like you can see there. It's like my little bin, any, finished thread that I can't use anymore, rather than going onto the floor or anywhere else, I throw it there, and then at the end of the day, I will clean that spot and throw it into the bin. Let's go to the very edge here. So here are also folded ribbons, and you can see they go in order. They're from new, not new, maybe I used it for like a couple of times, and they go to older. So I will use this for rehearsal. These ones can still, be okay for a show, and these are completely new, so this will definitely be for a show. And I do the same as here. I fold them and I place them here. We go into this part. Here's where I keep, as you can see, my pre-cutted elastics to sew onto my shoes. Then comes the thread that I use to sew the ribbons and the elastics to my shoes. I keep also a little lighter to know to burn the edges of the ribbon so they don't just fall apart. This is it's like a little knife. Sometimes if I'm in a rush, I would use this rather than the scissors. And then here, no, it's not a voodoo frog, don't worry. This is just my grandma made it for me. And I keep needles here in order. So these are the ones that are my most used needles. And at the very bottom, I have new needles right there. So that's it for this very first level. On the second level, what you will find is elastic that comes with the roll. And you know, whenever I have a long rehearsal, I will decide to, you know, go ahead, cut it, and take them to the very first level. Then I have obviously a roll of ribbon. I have the thread that I use for the very end of the tippy toe part of my point shoe. More spread ribbon, because you never have enough. And then I have my little tools in here. These are some tweezers that I use to help me, you know, grab the needle whenever I'm sewing the tippy toe of the point shoe and pull, so I don't hurt my fingers, I don't hurt my hands. This is a cutter, because I do cut my point shoes, so here's that. Obviously the scissors, I keep them here because they're quite big. And then I have some strange weird color threads that have to do with the rolls. Whenever we had black point shoes once we had I had to have brown point shoes, so I just like to keep this in case it comes back to the rep, or, you know, just it's handy. Once you have it, you have it. Some different elastics here. I used to have this elastic, so I had a little bit of leftover and I just keep it here in case I might need it one day. That's how I like to organize this box. Now, one of my favorite tricks is on thread. I like to always buy my thread in this format, so quite big. I tend to run away from these kind of threads, these formats. They, in the long run, are more expensive, and I personally find the quality is not as good as in this format. Where do I buy this? I buy it not in, you know, one of these stores that sell a bit of everything. I tend to go to specialized shops where they only sell sewing supplies, so fabrics, threads, needles, machines, whatever, everything that has to do with the sewing world. It can seem a little bit expensive when you start, you know, buying one of these bobbins. There's one of these like big format threads, but believe me, this thing lasts forever. I had it for 2 years now and it keeps going. Of course, you would ask yourself, I cannot run around with this thing. No. So I like to take just a piece of carton or just a piece of anything, toilet paper roll, this is what it is. And I like to, you know, roll it up, and then this is the one that I would take to work, so that I don't have to keep running around with this, you know, big bobbin. I will keep this at home, but I will take this to work with the quality of the thread and the price of the thread. I do exactly the same with the thread that I use to sew my ribbons and the elastics. I buy a big roll. I would use an old bobbin, the ones that come with like colorful threads, and I will just roll the piece, bum, 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 and this is the one that I will take to work. And this big roll, it stays at home. The second tip would be needles. I buy them in the same place, so I would go to a specialized store to buy my needles, and I suggest you to run away from these kind of formats where you find like 16 needles and they all have like slightly different sizes and maybe widths as well. I used to buy this just because it seemed convenient. They come with a little packaging I thought was cute, but I turned out to, you know, not use all of them because some of them were, you know, too tiny, too weak, and some of the others were a little bit too thick and too big. I couldn't really put them on right purpose, you know, with my point shoes or whatever. So in these stores, usually you can find needles individually so that you can really buy what you need. Most of the time those needles just, you know, end up getting full of dust in your sewing kit and never used, and they're actually taking space that is very precious. So I would go and buy your needles individually. Also, it's cheaper and they're better quality. So that was it. I hope you learned something that you can incorporate into your sewing kit. But for now, until the next video, bye!